Our brother was selected before he was elected. Wait a minute.
What if we told you that Barack Obama, whom many believe to be a symbol of progress for the black community in America, was a puppet by white interests? Many might ask, if he was indeed a puppet, why did the Kingmakers choose him? How did he fail to represent black interests authentically? Who was he truly serving, if not black people? Let's find out. The narrative of Barack Obama's ascent to the presidency often carries tales of inspiration, hope, and change. However, beneath this surface, some argue that his rise was carefully engineered by influential figures, the so-called Kingmakers, well before the public cast their votes. Barack Obama's election as the first African-American president of the United States marked a watershed moment in American history, symbolizing significant progress in the ongoing struggle for racial equality. His journey to the presidency has been said to not only shatter a formidable racial barrier, but also underscore the potential for inclusivity and diversity in American politics. Yet, alongside these achievements, Obama's presidency also exposed deep-seated racial tensions and challenges that persist in American society. Obama's ascent to the presidency was a triumph celebrated widely within the African American community and beyond. His victory was not just a personal achievement, but a collective milestone that affirmed the possibility of achieving the highest office regardless of racial background. It represented a culmination of decades of struggle in the civil rights movement, demonstrating that barriers could be overcome through perseverance and a commitment to equality. Central to Obama's appeal was his ability to forge a broad, multiracial coalition of supporters. His message of hope and change resonated deeply, particularly among young people and progressive voters disillusioned with the status quo. His narrative as the son of a Kenyan father and a white American mother embodied the diverse tapestry of American identity and offered a vision of unity amid diversity. However, Obama's presidency was not insulated from the realities of racial prejudice and division. Throughout his tenure, he faced unprecedented levels of scrutiny and opposition, much of which was tinged with racial undertones. From the birther conspiracy theories questioning his citizenship to overt displays of racism in public discourse, Obama's presidency brought to the forefront the persistence of racial animus in American politics. Many black Americans, who had hoped Obama's presidency would signify a post-racial era, were disillusioned by the harsh realities of racial inequality that persisted under his leadership. The rise of the Black Lives Matter movement during his presidency underscored ongoing issues of police brutality and systemic racism, highlighting the gap between symbolic progress and substantive change in racial justice. Obama's mixed heritage and complex identity prompted a broader reevaluation of black identity in America. While he was celebrated as a symbol of unity and resilience, his background also highlighted the diversity within the African American community. His presidency sparked debates about what it means to be black in America and challenged monolithic narratives of black identity that had dominated public discourse. Moreover, Obama's policies and rhetoric often navigated the delicate balance of addressing racial disparities while appealing to a broad spectrum of voters. His cautious approach reflected the complexities of governing in a racially polarized society, where perceptions of race often shape public policy and political outcomes. So, if Obama was not to signify the rise of the black community, what was he doing, and why was he made president? Key characteristics that made Obama appealing included his popularity, intelligence, and non-threatening appearance to white voters due to his light skin tone and neutral dialect. These traits made him a unifying figure, capable of appealing across racial lines. Comments from Senator Harry Reid about Obama's broad appeal support this theory, suggesting careful planning behind his public image. Obama's early success, notably his Iowa victory, was reportedly backed by Goldman Sachs, hinting at financial motives behind his rise. As a junior senator, his brilliance was seen as a tool for advancing broader strategic goals amid America's declining global power and economic struggles. While Obama's presidency symbolized change, it also raised questions about the influence of Kingmakers and whether he could act independently of those who orchestrated his ascent. So, was he selected before the elections? And why really? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The theory surrounding Barack Obama's rise to power asserts that his election was not merely the outcome of the democratic process, but rather a calculated decision orchestrated by influential figures long before his name appeared on the ballot. These behind-the-scenes power brokers are believed to identify candidates who not only possess intelligence and popularity, but also fit specific, often unspoken criteria. Barack Obama's ascension to the presidency was marked by a narrative that extends beyond conventional political campaigning. It suggests that from the outset of his political career, influential figures within the realms of finance, politics, and media identified him as a promising candidate who could advance their agendas. This notion challenges the simplistic view of electoral politics and highlights the role of backroom dealings in shaping national leadership. The selection process of candidates by these unseen influencers often revolves around characteristics that go beyond public appeal. Intelligence and charisma are essential, but equally significant are qualities like compliance with established power structures and the ability to navigate complex political landscapes without upsetting the status quo. Obama's ability to project a unifying image while subtly aligning with existing power dynamics made him an attractive choice for those seeking continuity with a veneer of change. Central to understanding Obama's appeal was his racial identity and its strategic presentation. As the first African-American president, Obama symbolized a historic breakthrough in American politics, a manifestation of progress in the ongoing struggle for racial equality. However, the theory posits that his racial identity was often commodified and strategically manipulated to appeal to diverse voter demographics while assuaging white anxieties about racial change. While Obama's presidency brought jubilation to many African Americans who saw it as a triumph over historical racial injustices, it also sparked critiques about the superficiality of his racial representation. Critics argue that his actions and policies, particularly in areas such as foreign policy and economic reform, often align more closely with mainstream, predominantly white interests than with the aspirations of marginalized communities. Obama's presidency underscored a duality in representation, outward symbolism versus substantive change. While his election represented a symbolic milestone for racial progress, his governance raised questions about the extent to which he challenged or reinforced existing power structures. His cautious approach to issues of race and identity, while understandable in a polarized political climate, left some constituencies feeling unheard and underserved. Critics point to instances where Obama's policies, such as his handling of economic recovery post-2008 or his approach to healthcare reform, reflected compromises that prioritized bipartisan support and economic stability over radical structural changes that could address systemic inequalities affecting minority communities. This pragmatic approach, while politically expedient, fueled disillusionment among segments of his base who had hoped for more transformative leadership. But if he was not elected, who selected him?
Now, all of you know something about Kingmakers. When people in back rooms come to somebody who's popular, somebody who's intelligent, that don't speak with a Negro dialect, a light-skinned Negro that is non-threatening to white people because they can see themselves in him because he's part them and part us.
This introduces us to a concept called Kingmakers. The concept of influential figures, often referred to as Kingmakers, orchestrating the rise of political leaders is not new. These shadowy power brokers are believed to operate behind the scenes, exerting significant influence over political landscapes by strategically selecting and supporting candidates who align with their interests and agendas. Kingmakers are individuals or groups with substantial wealth, political clout, and connections across various sectors of society. They wield influence not only through financial contributions to campaigns, but also through strategic endorsements and behind-the-scenes actions. Their goal is to identify candidates who possess the qualities and characteristics that can be molded to advance their specific agendas, which often encompass economic policies, international relations, and broader geopolitical strategies. The process of selecting candidates by Kingmakers is meticulous and strategic. It involves identifying individuals who exhibit not only intelligence and charisma, but also a willingness to conform to established power structures and policies favored by the Kingmakers. These candidates are perceived as capable of navigating complex political landscapes while maintaining a public image that resonates with a broad spectrum of voters. Barack Obama emerged as a compelling choice for Kingmakers due to his unique blend of characteristics and background. His intelligence, eloquence, and ability to inspire were complemented by a pragmatic approach to governance that appealed to both progressive ideals and moderate sensibilities. Moreover, Obama's background as a community organizer, constitutional law scholar, and senator from Illinois positioned him as a candidate with the intellectual rigor and political acumen necessary to address pressing national and international issues. Obama's appeal to Kingmakers extended beyond his attributes to encompass broader strategic considerations. His mixed-race heritage and multicultural upbringing provided him with a nuanced understanding of racial dynamics and cultural diversity, a factor that resonated with a diverse electorate and signaled inclusivity in his leadership style. His ability to communicate across racial and socioeconomic divides made him a unifying figure capable of bridging partisan divides, a quality highly valued by those seeking stability and continuity in governance. Furthermore, Obama's campaign platform centered on themes of hope, change, and progressive reform, aligned closely with the evolving priorities of key demographic groups, including young voters, minorities, and progressive activists. His advocacy for healthcare reform, environmental protection, and economic stimulus resonated with segments of the electorate disillusioned with previous administration's policies and seeking a new direction for the country. Now the question is, apart from his intelligence and popularity, what other criteria Obama met that made him the best choice?
Is political scheming, which Senator Reid got involved in. He didn't mean no harm. He was just talking about the white mentality.
Right. That's right.
So now, when you select a man, the man may never know what your purpose was. Because I understand that his initial victory in Iowa was financed largely by Goldman Sachs. I don't know the truth. That's what I've read. Now look, who selected a junior senator that hadn't even got his foot wet in the Senate and made him believe that he, from that position, could become President of the United States? I suggest to you that the people that looked at him and saw his brilliance, saw that that brilliance could be used for a purpose that was not our agenda. Now, I'm closing now.
Beyond intelligence and popularity, Barack Obama met several subtle and often unspoken criteria that positioned him as the favored choice among influential figures orchestrating his rise to power. These criteria went beyond traditional metrics of political acumen and public appeal, encompassing attributes that resonated with broader strategic considerations and electoral dynamics. One crucial criterion was Obama's ability to appeal to white voters without alienating them, a delicate balancing act that played a pivotal role in his candidacy. It is suggested that his manner of speaking and his light-skinned tone contributed to making him more palatable to a diverse electorate, particularly white voters who might have harbored reservations about supporting a black candidate. Senator Harry Reid's infamous comments on Obama's appeal to white voters underscored this strategic dimension. Reid reportedly remarked on Obama's lack of a Negro dialect and his light skin as factors that made him an attractive candidate. This acknowledgement, while controversial, reflected broader perceptions within political circles about the strategic value of Obama's racial identity in garnering cross-racial support. Obama's candidacy and presidency sparked debates about the symbolic versus substantive dimensions of racial representation in American politics. While his election as the first African American president symbolized a historic breakthrough in racial equality and diversity, critics argued that his policies and actions often prioritized appeasing white interests over addressing systemic inequalities faced by African Americans and other marginalized communities. This tension between symbolism and substance was evident in Obama's approach to issues such as healthcare reform, economic recovery, and criminal justice reform. While he advocated for progressive policies aimed at expanding access to healthcare and promoting economic equality, his administration's compromises and pragmatic concessions sometimes fell short of addressing the structural barriers that perpetuate racial disparities. Obama's communication style and messaging were instrumental in shaping his appeal across racial and socioeconomic lines. His ability to articulate a message of hope, unity, and inclusive governance resonated with voters disillusioned with partisan gridlock and divisive politics. His speeches, often marked by their eloquence and optimism, appealed to a broad spectrum of Americans, transcending racial and ideological divides. Moreover, Obama's background as a community organizer and constitutional law scholar provided him with a unique perspective on issues of social justice and democratic governance. His experiences navigating Chicago's diverse communities and advocating for grassroots empowerment informed his approach to leadership, emphasizing dialogue, empathy, and consensus building in policymaking. So, does this mean the Black community never won in America? Let's do a comparison of how Black people were treated under Obama and before him. Before Obama's presidency, Black Americans grappled with entrenched systemic racism, pervasive inequality, and significant barriers to political representation. Historical injustices, such as Jim Crow laws and institutionalized segregation, had created enduring disparities in education, employment, housing, and access to health care. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, epitomized by figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks, made strides in challenging overt racial segregation and discrimination. However, despite legislative victories like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, racial tensions and divisions persisted. Black Americans faced widespread discrimination in virtually every aspect of life, from segregated schools and neighborhoods to limited job opportunities and unequal treatment under the law. Racist policies and practices, including voter suppression tactics aimed at disenfranchising Black voters, were pervasive and entrenched in many states across the country. The criminal justice system disproportionately targeted Black individuals, with harsher sentencing, police brutality, and systemic biases contributing to higher incarceration rates among Black Americans compared to their white counterparts. The war on drugs policies of the 1980s and 1990s exacerbated these disparities, leading to mass incarceration and intergenerational cycles of poverty and disenfranchisement. Despite the civil rights movement's gains, very few Black Americans held positions of high-level political power and leadership at the national level. The barriers to entry into political offices were steep, with systemic racism often hindering Black candidates' electoral prospects and policy influence. And what happened during Obama's time?
The people that chose him know the time that we are living at the end of America's rule as a great power in the world. Now you have to face it. She's bankrupt. What are you going to do when the dollar is worth nothing? They are printing money out of thin air to back these programs. So my brother may be disappointing some that thought he would be what maybe he has the nerve not to be.
Throughout his presidency, Barack Obama and his family were subjected to a relentless barrage of racist slurs, derogatory images, and offensive comments. From depictions of Obama as a monkey to questioning his American citizenship, these incidents shocked and disillusioned many in the Black community and beyond. Such overt displays of racism underscored the persistence of deep-seated racial animus in segments of American society, despite the nation's progress towards racial equality. Obama's presidency exacerbated existing racial tensions and exposed fault lines in American society. Disagreements over his policies, responses to racial incidents, and even his mere presence in the White House strained relationships between Black and white Americans. Personal relationships, including friendships and professional collaborations, sometimes fractured along racial lines as differing perceptions of racial justice and equality came to the forefront. The advent of social media during Obama's tenure facilitated the rapid dissemination of racist imagery and narratives. Platforms once hailed for connecting people across distances also exposed Black Americans to a resurgence of historical racist depictions. Images portraying Obama and his family in caricatures reminiscent of Jim Crow-era stereotypes circulated widely, evoking painful memories of America's racist past and generating feelings of vulnerability and unease among African Americans. Despite calls for reform, Obama's presidency saw persistent challenges in addressing police brutality and systemic injustices within the criminal justice system. High-profile cases of police killings of Black individuals, such as Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and Freddie Gray, galvanized public outcry and catalyzed the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement. While Obama expressed empathy and called for dialogue, his administration's approach to these issues often fell short of satisfying demands for comprehensive reform, leaving many feeling disillusioned with the pace of change. Economic disparities and racial inequalities persisted throughout Obama's presidency, despite efforts to promote economic recovery and social equity. Significant gaps remained in areas such as unemployment rates, access to affordable housing, educational attainment, and wealth accumulation. Critics argued that Obama's economic policies, while beneficial to many, did not adequately address the unique challenges faced by Black communities grappling with generational poverty and systemic discrimination. So, it's hard to say that the Black community won in Obama's time. Do you think it won? Was Obama representing the Black community? Did you ever like him? Let us know in the comment section. Do you agree he was just a puppet? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.